When you mention the word shark, this is the image most people think of. A 16-foot monster rising from the depths to swallow you whole. This one's mouth is almost 3 feet across, and inside are 30 rows, or approximately 3,000 teeth. His back is armour-plated, and as you can see, he fears nothing in the ocean. But the most amazing thing about this particular shark is that he's just a baby. That's it. Up you come.
Woohoo! Hi, I'm Ian Gordon and welcome to my world.
We're flying over the coast of Western Australia, and below me some of the world's largest animals are about to congregate. During the months of April and May, these giants are found right down here, but for the rest of the year we know very little about where they go. We're going to help solve that mystery. We're going to attach a satellite tag to a whale shark, and believe me, it's not going to be easy.
Whale sharks are voyagers on the open oceans, and scientists know very little about them. Despite all those teeth, they're really gentle giants, and their annual gatherings give us the best chance to get close to some. Scientists believe that they roam the deep oceans, usually alone. But every summer, hundreds of these sharks gather off the coast of Western Australia at a place called Ningaloo Reef. At 160 miles long, Ningaloo is the second largest living thing in the world after the Great Barrier Reef. Although isolated, it's become a favourite destination for people wanting to dive with a living monster. These huge creatures are protected by Australian law, so divers can look, but they can't touch.
In normal tourist situations, you're not allowed to have more than about 10 people in the water at once, and they can't get any closer than 10 feet from a shark.
After 20 years' experience, tagging one will be my biggest job yet. Our crew has special permission to handle the sharks, and that's all the invitation I need. My job is to help John Stevens from Australia's Scientific and Industrial Research Organisation. John wants to know just where the giants of Ningaloo roam. Our skipper is Peter Lake, an experienced whale shark diver. He's taking us to part of a reef where we'll have the best chance to find some.
Yeah, excellent out there. Karma, you there, Greg?
Fishermen in Asian waters catch an unlucky few, but no one knows if they're the same ones that visit Ningaloo. John has tried to track them via satellite using a floating transmitter attached to a cable, but the cables have snapped, or the attachments have pulled out of the shark's skin. He's asked me to fit a new transmitter that we've designed. It should be more secure and cause less drag on the shark.
This is the tag we came up with at CSIRO. This fits directly onto the dorsal fin of the shark, about halfway up, so the aerial sticks up above the top of the fin, and this fits around the leading edge. So we put it in place, and in here we've got two very sharp stainless steel pins which are powered by two powerful springs, which we load up on the boat and put a trigger in. Then we put it on place on the shark and pull the trigger, and hopefully it's located firmly in place on the shark.
Yeah. We have just 2 weeks to attach a satellite tag while the sharks pass a particular patch of reef. Meanwhile, the event that summons them is about to take place. The reef below us is waiting for its own satellite signal. The satellite in this case is the moon.
And its orbit around the Earth creates a kind of calendar for marine life. And every February the coral gets ready to spawn, and so the whole reef spawns at once. It waits for one signal, the full moon.
This thick release of coral spawn forms the basis for an explosion of marine life here on the reef. Spawn that doesn't form new coral becomes a feast that filters up through the whole food chain. And the guest of honour is about to join the banquet. despite that huge mouth, it's not going to bite anyone. The whale shark is a forced filter feeder designed to gulp up to 1,500 gallons of water in an hour and sieve it for anything larger than a millimetre across. Over the next few weeks, they'll be arriving at Ningaloo's ultra-fine feast, and Peter knows just where to find them. A spotter plane helps us find the sharks from the air, and they're turning up just where Peter predicted.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Excellent. Thanks a lot, Greg. We'll be on our way.
We're over a patch of reef Peter calls the ramps.
Port side, 9 o'clock, about 30 metres.
It's been about 5 years since I last swam with a whale shark, and I'm really excited.
You ready, guys? Whale shark, port side. Wait. Wait. Okay, go. Go, go, go.
My first dive's a part reconnaissance mission, part identity parade. Researchers are building up a database of these sharks, and every new individual has to be photographed. Scientists use these photos to identify each shark by its unique pattern of spots. Tagging one of these guys isn't going to be easy. At about 4 miles per hour, they're not exactly Olympic record holders, but it's going to be a long, hard swim to keep up with one while I attach a transmitter. I'll also have to keep clear of that powerful tail.
Oh, what a beautiful animal. He just keeps coming and coming, and we're just jumping in, and he's running right past us. And then we can't keep up with him, and he just heads off in the distance, but he's not flinching or moving or anything. Such a wonderful animal.
Before we can tag one, I have to find out just what size a shark will be the perfect fit for our tag. This part of the job's like being Prince Charming in search of his Cinderella. All that's missing is a glass slipper.
The first phase is to measure the shark's fin with this wire and see if the tag's going to fit.
It's also a chance to see how they'll react when we attach the tag. The dorsal fin is mainly made of thick skin and connective tissue with few nerves, so for the shark, the whole procedure should be like having an ear pierced. I just wish a blow from his tail was as painless.
Okay. I bent this around the dorsal, right, and just sort of held it in just like that to get the right, and then sort of put some pressure on it. So that's about the template of the dorsal.
Yeah, that's about spot on actually. 5 centimetres. And
5 centimetres.
so it's about right.
Before we even begin tagging, our spotter plane directs us to a mysterious piece of behaviour.
Coming up starboard, 9 o'clock, 10 metres. Ready? Wait. Wait. Okay, go, go, go.
People have reported this slow circling dance before, but it's never been filmed. Its purpose is unknown, but it's magical to watch. Are these sharks meeting for the first time and sizing each other up? Or are the ramps a special place where old friends greet each other after a year apart? They're so mysterious, majestic and graceful. I wish I knew them better. Diving with these sharks is like swimming with a friendly giant.
Even though these guys have a mouth which can be up to 5 feet wide at times in big whale sharks, the actual opening to their stomach is only very small. So As a result, it's impossible to swallow somebody like a human.
As curious as we are about them, the feeling seems to be mutual. Without any sign of aggression, sharks keep approaching our boat. It's like they're wondering what could possibly be larger than they are. Several days in, the mission is on course and it's time to prime the tag. We've picked a 30-foot male and Peter and I prepare for action.
I'll come in from this side, so you come in from that side, and just as you pull that, I'll just peel off the plastic band.
No worries.
He's moving quickly, so we're both anxious about keeping up with him.
Just keep going around.
Even John's nervous. That's a $5,000 tag he's trusting us with.
Let's do it, mate.
Now that we're getting closer, it's obvious that this is no ordinary shark. The hole in his fin tells us that this is shark bite, one of the first individuals to be identified here back in 1984. Youngsters do get chomped by other sharks, but now that he's a big boy, nothing in the ocean can bother him.
Slide this up.
With a known history, he's the perfect candidate to tag.
Pull the tag, pull the tag.
Okay, I've got the pin out.
His thick skin means the pins are slow to work their way in, and as we wiggle the tag, Sharkbite decides to take us deeper.
Got the tag. Shark's just pulling down on us. It's a little bit unsure, a little bit unstraight, but that's pretty good, mate. Our problem is this. Now pull it out, mate. The tag has come right through there.
After some anxious moments, we finally managed to secure it.
Yeah, it's okay. I think that's good, mate. I think that's good. Pretty good. Yeah. You're still heading down. I don't think that's going anywhere. I reckon we should be happy with that. We'll just leave that on, okay? So let's go back up. There's our whale shark just swimming off with the satellite tag on. Looks pretty good.
Well done, and it's huge. Absolutely fantastic.
Woohoo! We got it!
So what happened?
Oh, it was shark bite.
Did it go right in?
Yeah, it went right in.
We weren't sure whether you put it on or not.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, but we went down on the big dive with it.
Right.
Oh, that was just so. Oh,
Absolutely superb.
Did you give it a bit of a
oh yeah. We got it. We got it just about all the way through, and the shark was so big. This was a really big one. About 8 meters or something.
Oh, I think 9 metres.
Maybe 9 meters. Right. It was so thick we had to put it right up high in the dorsal that we got it in level, fired the pins, and then the pins worked their way in. We watched them go in. That's so exciting, getting a chance to put this tag on this shark. The first time we've deployed a satellite tag that's actually attached to the shark and not trailing behind the shark. And everything just went so well. So now we've got to track it for a while, and we'll dive on it once and twice, and then hopefully we're going to get incredible information from this over the next year.
Yeah, what a great
Congratulations,
mate.
mate.
Pleasure, mate.
Well done.
Too right. Fantastic.
A sonic pinger lets us follow Sharkbite for a while. He's gone deep for 45 minutes, and now it looks like he's not alone.
Incredible animal. 9 meters long, all of it. And it's carrying along this satellite tag. seems to be sitting so nicely on its back. It's a tiny little bit of an angle on it.
He's performing the same circling dance we've seen other sharks doing. It's probably not a mating ritual, since most of these sharks are immature males. Nobody knows how long they live. It could be 50 or even 100 years. Meanwhile, the tag doesn't seem to be bothering him at all.
That satellite tag seems to be sitting just beautifully. I'm so happy the way the satellite tag is sitting. It is sitting just maybe a fraction high, but it seems so tight, and the shark seems so good with it. Not a bad looking piece of fishing. Just got to make sure I don't hit this tail here.
With days to spare, it looks like the hard work is over. But Sharkbite has other ideas. Sometimes the big one gets away. Sharkbite has dived out of range for a while, so I'm taking a chance to identify new sharks for the database. The more sharks I see, the more I realise that each has its own following of small fish. Many of them probably spend their whole lives on this one shark, going wherever it does. If you look carefully at the opening behind the eye, you can see a baby remora. It feeds on parasites inside the gill space. Adult remoras attach to the shark's underside. They pick off external parasites. They also get to snatch any morsels that spill from a shark's mouth. Other fish like trevally feed near the mouth too, but they don't attach to the shark. Instead, they get a free ride by cruising the pressure wave before the head and fins. In many ways, the whale shark's like a huge floating reef, providing food and shelter for many other species that live in it, on it, and around it.
This shark actually has a huge shark bite out of its fin as well, which is very interesting. This is a male, and he's not actually the shark that we tagged that has a shark bite. Doesn't actually, he's not actually our whale shark which we tagged.
I don't think it is sharkbite, but you can trust my cameraman Mike to suspect the worst.
I'm pretty sure that's sharkbite, eh?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so certain it might be, but there's another one around that's just like that.
I'm sure when I went around I could see the pinholes in the dorsal fin and a little scratch where it had come away.
Well, there's only one way to find out. We'll go back and check the footage, but I'm hoping it's not.
I just hate it when Mike's right.
Here we go now, coming in on the tail, on the fin.
It does look a bit similar.
Coming up. Now just keep an eye out right at the top, just on the edge of the screen now.
Oh yeah.
There it is, and you can see the scrape.
Yeah.
And there's the other pinhole right at the head. That's definitely sharkbite.
Yeah, it's sharkbite. Somehow Sharkbite must have scraped off his tag. That leaves us just a few days to send for a new one and fit it before the sharks begin to disperse. Plan B is to modify one of John's old floating tags. We fit it with more secure attachments, but just when we're ready to give it a go, things go from bad to worse. The weather cuts up rough, grounding the spotter planes and forcing us to seek shelter in a safe anchorage.
First it was the loss of a tag, and now it's the wind. It's been blowing over 30 knots for the last few days and it doesn't look like easing up. Frustration's an understatement.
Thankfully, every storm blows itself out. The good news is that a new tag has just arrived. The bad news is that we've only got one day to fit it. This time we're going to make sure it stays put. I'll fit it while Peter uses a compressed air drill to drive an extra bolt through the fin. Practice makes sure the procedure will be quick and painless. Our luck is improving. The spotter plane has quickly found us the right size shark.
Thanks, mate. This is the second tag, so fingers crossed.
This is our last chance. If we can't pull it off this time, it may be a whole year before we can do it again.
This little bloke here is only about 14 feet in length. Probably weighs about 3/4 of a ton, so he's not very heavy at all.
This is a small shark. We reckon it won't be hard to keep up with, but it just doesn't want to be tagged. This is all we need. The chase is getting exhausting. The shark is just keeping beyond our reach, but there's no way I can give up now. It's like a crazy, desperate game. Every time we get close, he pulls away from us.
Hopefully we're going to get this tag on this time. Again. Might have been. Oh, God. Come on, mate. Come around us. Shark seems to be moving a bit. Get a speed on her.
Finally, Mike gets in front of him with a camera and he pauses for a moment.
Can't seem to keep. Now Mike's moved around in front. She's slowing down. Slowing down. It's looking good. Okay, get that tag on the back. Alright. Got the drills. Start to drill her home. Yeah, right, Ian. Yeah, I can see it's not straight. Alright, start up, alright. What's the time? You're right, I got her home. Mate.
Mission accomplished. With our air running low, it's not a moment too soon.
Oh, talk about hard work. Oh, dear.
Well, finally we've tagged our second whale shark. And all we can do is hope that the tag stays on. The proof will come over the next couple of months. I've got to tell you, this has been an amazing experience. Over the last couple of weeks, we've dived with over 35 different sharks, thanks to Pete. And now all we can do is wait for a message from up above.
Well, it's been nearly 4 months since we last saw our whale shark, and so far we've only received one signal from it 5 days after we tagged it. So have we lost another tag? Maybe not. It only transmits on every 5th day, and the antenna has to break the surface for it to reach us. So it's early days yet. We'll only have a true picture of a whale shark's movements after years of study. Meanwhile, I've got other sharks to meet, and you're welcome to join me.
Around the world, more and more people are jumping into cages and getting up close to big, hungry sharks. But what happens when you attract these animals to places already enjoyed by scuba divers? That's what I'm here to find out.
Woohoo! Few sharks down there.
12 miles off the coast of New Zealand is a group of islands known as the Poor Knights. It's a place that attracts plenty of sharks, as well as people. So I've come to get a bird's eye view of the situation.
Whew, that Gannet guano really stinks. We're actually on a massive pinnacle that's part of a volcano that blew up about 5 million years ago. And since then we've had waves rushing in on this area here, smashing up on the rocks, creating all of these great swim-throughs and caves that are really great dive sites and are really nice spots for fish to live. Out here we have a tropical current which is barreling down the coast and is bringing with it tuna and marlin and even some sharks. Over here we have a dive operator who's putting divers in the water to a place called Tie-Dye Arch. On the other side of that rock over there we have the other operator burling for sharks. And if I didn't know any better, I'd be worried about that.
Mako sharks that cruise here can reach a length of 14 feet, large enough to be dangerous. Mako attacks on divers are rare, but they do happen. And the thousands of people who visit here every year have to live with that fact. What brings them to the Poor Knights is the same warm water and variety of marine life that attracts the sharks. The strange tube-shaped salp is a colony of marine animals. It drifts in the water and provides an easy meal for other creatures. The fish are as exotic as they are plentiful. The sandagger's wrasse changes from female to male during its life cycle. And in the summer, hundreds of stingrays gather to seek mates in the rocky arches. Rays are close relatives of sharks. Both have skeletons made of cartilage instead of bone, but there are other similarities. They both have well-developed brains and sensory systems, including a system for detecting the electrical field of their prey. This helps them find their prey in darkness and under sand and silt. Since most rays are bottom feeders, this comes in very handy. Without large teeth for defence, the venomous spine of a stingray's tail is an important accessory. But their family connection doesn't stop some sharks from preying on them. To the divers, it's all an amazing spectacle. To the Mako, it's a smorgasbord. But what makes a fish aggressive? To explain that underwater, I need a special mask I call the aquaphone. To be attacked by a fish, you have to be mistaken for prey, menace it or threaten its territory.
A beautiful breeding rock of damsels. These beautiful little fish here with the 2 white dots. Damselfish are actually laying their eggs on this site. Beautiful female that's doing the attacking, trying to keep me away from the eggs. So fearless, she'll give up her own life for the future babies. What we'll do is we'll leave her alone because we don't want to upset her too much. One last little attack there, look at that. And we'll just pull away.
Mako sharks won't attack to defend a territory. Results from tagging studies suggest that adults are nomadic. Despite their wandering ways, they're easy to find. Cage divers attract them to their boats with bags of minced fish they call burley. More and more charter skippers like Glenn McFarlane are turning from shark fishing to shark diving. The method of attracting them is just the same. Out in open water, the burley forms a slick that stretches out in the current. When the sharks pick up the scent, the excitement begins. Diving with blue and Mako sharks is the ultimate adrenaline rush. It's also pretty safe, as long as you're inside the cage. With an aggressive Mako hanging around, you wouldn't want to be outside. The worry is, those guys are attracting more than their fair share of sharks, and those sharks are going to stay around, and sooner or later, somebody's going to get nailed. Now, statistically, the chances of getting nailed out there are incredibly low, but that doesn't help you if you're in mid-water wondering what else is out there with you. So I've got a plan to find out if there really is a potential problem out there. But before we do that, let's get up close and personal with a Mako shark. There's something new to learn on every Mako expedition. After 20 years of looking at sharks, I know the Mako as well as anyone, but that's not saying much. It's thought that larger animals are migratory, wandering throughout the world's tropical and temperate oceans. They're usually found in deep water, in a zone that extends from the surface down to about 450 feet. In these waters, they share that zone with other predators like the common and bottlenose dolphins.
There's a bit of a misconception with these guys. A lot of people think that if you've got dolphins in the area, there are no sharks because they'll scare the sharks away. That's not true. Normally, if you look for dolphins or toothy whales, you're almost certain to find sharks hanging around with the group. Come on. Sometimes when they're really playful, you can actually hop in the water and swim with them. But in most cases, they're just like riding the bow of the boat and getting the bow wake and getting a little bit of a lift. Oh, yes. You're gorgeous, aren't you? Dolphins are nice, but they're not sharks.
To better understand Mako, you need to see their natural feeding behaviour, and for that, you have to have a fisheye view.
We're in about 200 or 300 feet of water, and that's where the Mako sharks like to hunt. They call this area Shark Alley. If a fisherman's coming along this area, he usually pulls his lines in, because the Mako teeth are so sharp they'll cut straight through the line. We're actually going to deploy this lovely looking mullet here, but as you can see, there's no hook in it at all. It's actually attached to a paravane, which has got a really cool little camera in the bottom of it just here. So as it flies through the water, we can actually see the shark come up and take it. So let's put it in and see what comes along.
In Shark Alley, you never know who will turn up when you ring the dinner bell. These are kingfish. Compared to them, our mullet's just an appetizer. Big, fast, open water fish like this are the Mako's main course.
Oh, that's more like it. We got a Mako shark up. He's just coming cruising in right now. And these guys are really interesting because as they're coming in, you can see both of their eyes. They're coming straight in and their nose is very pointed and they have binocular vision. So he's looking straight at the bait and he's coming in. He's cruising around the bait. These guys grow to about 14 to 15 feet and about 1,500 pounds, 1,200 pounds, somewhere around that size. They're just explosive balls of energy. They can just hang around and you see them just sort of shaking in the water like this. Very rake-type teeth for catching fish and swallowing them. And that's what he's doing right now. He's actually sizing up a fish and he's just taken it. So we'll just go and change the bait. Camera's still okay. That's good. That last hit that we got was quite strong. I was a bit worried it might have damaged the camera, and we want to get a bit more footage of these Makos attacking these baits. It's on pretty good. We'll get this back in the water again, try and get some more shots. Off you go. Yeah, it looks like we got a little guy coming up right now. We have a little Mako shark just cruising up towards a bait. We're doing about 5 miles an hour, and this guy's just traveling at about 20 miles an hour, and he doesn't even look like he's trying. In fact, that's about half speed for these guys. They can do 40 miles an hour plus.
Mako are the high-performance sports cars of the shark world. Their acceleration is just phenomenal. This one's coming up on the bait from a few hundred feet back in just a few seconds. Just like a sports car has big air intakes for increased power, Makos have some of the largest gills of any shark. They supply lots of oxygen to the Mako's powerful swimming muscles.
They're without a doubt one of the fastest fish in the sea. And he's just scoping out the bait, coming and looking at it. And now he's just taken it, so we've got to go and put another bait on. Okay, now I want to get back in again nice and quickly. I don't want to miss any of this.
Mako sharks aren't the only sharks that hunt here. You can also see hammerheads.
Hammerhead. He's coming straight onto the bait right now. That's just amazing. He's just sort of stopped, turned his head a little bit. Bang, he's just ripped the bait right off. He hasn't actually hit the bait, but he's come in and hit it with his pectoral fin, and it's just cut the line. Hopefully he'll come back up again and have a look at the paravane towed without the bait. So I'm not going to pull a bait in yet, so we'll just sort of wait and see. Here he comes now. He's coming in. Hang on, that's not him, that's a marlin. Oh, look at him coming in. It's a striped marlin. He's probably about 10 feet in length, looking at the size.
He doesn't like our paravane. That erect dorsal's a sign of aggression.
This is without a doubt the best striped marlin footage I've ever seen.
Like dolphins, marlin are nice, but they're not sharks. Diving with Mako would certainly be a buzz, but could it cause a dangerous build-up of sharks? Makos are always looking for fish, so when they find a burley trail, they'll quickly find the source. Getting closer is a thrill I can't resist.
These sharks are amazing how they sense and locate their prey. Most big sharks use their eyes as a primary source of being able to locate prey. Mako sharks have really big eyes, and they will come right in and look at you. You can see them coming straight on. They can see with both eyes coming directly towards you. You'll actually notice that they have a mouthful of very, very sharp dagger-like teeth. And they're actually designed for catching their prey and holding it while it's struggling and then swallowing it whole. Sometimes they'll turn it around and swallow it head first. But in most cases, they'll just grab it, give it a bit of a shake and swallow it down whole.
Woohoo! A few sharks down there.
You enjoy that, mate?
Yeah, lots of sharks around. That's great. Get up out of here, eh?
I've got this lovely tuna here, and what I want to do is try and hand feed it to one of these Mako sharks. Now I reckon that these guys are going to be able to tell where my hand stops and where the fish starts. Very intelligent animals, they know what a fish looks like, but I don't think they've ever seen a human, so it should be interesting. So let's try it. I wouldn't suggest other people try this. I've been doing this for a while, and I know what I'm doing, I think.
My experience tells me that Mako favour fish over divers and can tell the difference. But this little guy seems to prefer neither. He also needs a lesson in oral hygiene. These bite marks explain why he's so cautious. They probably came from a bigger Mako. Sharks like this are smart. They quickly learn what's good for them and what's not. Looks like he's figured out I just want to be friends. This little guy's acceptance of me is quite surprising. He'll even let me examine his wounds. Just when we're having fun, my little mate gets nervous again, and so do I. When the little blokes scatter, it's a sure sign that something bigger is on its way, and the odds are it's bigger than me too. Time to get out. Smaller sharks often take off when larger animals show up, and this time's no exception. Makos tend to be loners, and they don't appreciate competition, and this one's looking for dinner.
Come on, mate. Here she comes. And there's some sharks you just don't hop in the water with first off. This is a beautiful female Mako shark. She's probably about 8 feet long. She's been around the boat now for about the last half hour, just chewing and biting at everything. She's just such a beautiful animal, but just that little bit too aggressive, a little bit too big to go jumping straight in with.
I still can't resist hand feeding her though.
Here we go, come on. That's it.
Makos and their relatives are warm-bodied sharks. That means more muscle power, but it also means they have big appetites. Those perfect little triangle fins tell us she's a female, and that swelling near her tail is a caudal keel, which stiffens it for extra drive.
Come on, darling. Here you go. Come on, mate. There you go, mate. There you go, mate. Hello. Come back here.
Do these sharks hang around the burley slick, or do they move on? To discover that, I've got to follow one.
These are pingers, little ultrasonic tags, and this is how we actually track the sharks when we can't see them. On this end here, it sends a signal back to the boat. This is the attachment point, and we harpoon this into a muscle area in the back of a shark's back. It just goes straight in like that, folds out on the back, and it smarts a little bit, but it doesn't bother the shark that much. Then it can tow this tag for as long as we need. In the centre, there's some very interesting information that says to contact the fisheries if the shark is caught. So let's get this into the shark and we can find out where they're going.
An obliging young male volunteers for my experiment.
That's a great shot. Yep, now we can track this guy. Well, this is our magic box. You saw us put that tag in that shark a little while ago. This box tracks a signal that's coming off that shark. How we do that is by putting this transducer in the water, and we can actually see where the shark is in relation to the boat.
Now that he's fed, the Mako is moving off from the burley slick, and I'm hot on his trail.
Ah, there he is. Well, the shark's moved well off from the burley slick. We've been tracking this guy for about 14 hours, and he's headed off in this direction and hasn't really turned at all. I think it's safe to say that he's actually moved well away from where Glenn's burling and is headed south.
At the end of a long day, it's good to head back to the old home port. But there's no such thing for the Mako. Researchers have tagged mature sharks that have covered 1,200 miles in just 1 month. Big sharks attracted to dive boats can easily be miles away soon after. But what about the little guys? Could they be a problem? The rich waters of the Poor Knights will always attract sharks. A couple of boats putting out burley isn't going to make a difference. Small Makos do hang around in nursery areas, but they're not big enough or aggressive enough to threaten recreational divers. All Makos are potentially dangerous, but they're usually on the move, chasing down fast open water fish that are their staple diet.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Mako and blue shark diving operations like this are no problems to local divers. It's just not in the nature of a beast to hang around and cause problems.
There's no doubt that the wonders of the Poor Knights will continue to attract both sharks and divers, but sharks should be considered as a highlight rather than a hazard. The more we know about their habits, the better we're able to coexist with the magnificent Mako.